Yes, we need the rain. Wow. Nice crowd. Oh, doing a pan. All right. This is an unrehearsed event tonight, and very exciting, as a matter of fact. How many people here were at Woodstock? Let's see. Wow. Really? How old were you, young fella?
1.
Nice. Wow. Hey, let's see, we'll just kind of lay out the show a little bit. There are books back there, two Ken Babbs books, Who Shot the Water Buffalo, or We Were Arrested. 2 of those for $10 anytime, and there will be a signing afterwards. And Ken just got some copies of On the Bus, right?
Yes, an ancient book, mint copies that came to me from somebody that had them, and I'm selling those for 20. They go for like 40 or 50 on the internet.
So feel free to pick any of those up. And what's it going to be, about a half-hour story? Or?
Yeah, about a half hour. But first...
Yeah, first, a special treat. We're going to get the old guys off the stage. And we have Maddie Rawl is going to come up here and sing a very special song for us. Let's get a round of applause for Maddie.
All right. This song is called Woodstock, appropriate, by Joni Mitchell. Enjoy. I came upon a child of God. He was walking along the road, and I asked him, "Where are you going?" And this he told me, "I'm going on down to Yasgur's farm. I'm gonna join in a rock and roll band. I'm gonna camp out on the land, try and get my soul free. We are stardust, we are golden, and we've got to get ourselves back to the garden."
So we're streaming live right now, all this on Facebook. So that's why all the complications with the judo. Hoodoo. Do what? No man.
What man?
Manpower.
What power?
Power to hoodoo.
Do what?
Do what? Hoodoo. Well, I want to thank you all for coming. As you know, Woodstock's been a big deal, and it's rightly so. The celebration of Woodstock is also the last of the celebration of the 50th anniversary of the 60s. Every year this decade, something happened on the 60s has been celebrated. And you know, last month was the moon landing. So we're going to wrap up and wind up the 60s tonight. And afterwards, I'm going to take questions and answers if any of you want to do that. And then also, you'll be able to buy the books, and then I'm going to sign everything too that anybody wants signed. Okay. An interviewer asked me some questions about Woodstock. Oh my God. That was one of the questions. How's the equipment working? The answer will be coming. So, what is something you will always remember about Woodstock? Taking Jerry Garcia for a ride in a golf cart and getting stuck in a pond. Jimi Hendrix doing the Star-Spangled Banner at dawn. Shaking hands with Ravi Shankar. Touched like a butterfly. Were drugs being experimented with? Who? Us? You kidding me? Kids, wives, mothers, husbands, fathers. Sheesh, who had time for drugs? The hog farm encampment sprawled across a large meadow. The buses from Oregon were parked on a knoll, looking down on the hog farm. My job was to run a funky free stage for music and making announcements. The rest of our crew would help the hog farmers in the free kitchen and the freak-out tent. When someone on a bad trip was brought to the freak-out tent, the hog farmers laid the person down on a mat and massaged and hummed the frantic soul back to peace. We ran an extension cord from the generator on the back of Further to power the sound equipment, and in the waning hours of day, sent our music wafting across the meadow. I was on the blonde guitar, Dale Kesey on his fiddle. Some unknown plugged in his guitar and joined us, while another stranger in a floppy hat pushed his mouth on a harmonica. We were a long ways removed from any recognizable tune. The sound swayed, shrieked, and screamed until finally we found a mellow groove and welcomed the arrival of a cool breeze that softened the muggy heat of the afternoon. The next morning, we were awakened by a dusty pickup that parked next to the buses. Mike Hagan had finally caught up with us with the camera gear. He was ready to start shooting. I led him on a tour over to the main stage, a frenzy of activity and a panic to get the structure completed before the concert started. The workers kept everyone at a distance. No interruptions now, no hanging around. Hagan and I stood at the bottom of the slope looking up at the main stage when a bearded, shirtless guy ran at us screaming, "You can't be here! Get out of here! Can't you numbskulls see we have work to do?" Keep shooting, Mike, I said. This guy seems to have toppled over the edge. Picking me as the main troublemaker, he tackled me to the ground and we thrashed around, trying to get the advantage of each other. "What's this?" Sonny Hurd said. "It's the Siamese twins and we can't tell them apart." Then let's separate them, Ramrod said, and it was a good thing because the big belly of the lout was squeezing the wind out of me. Ramrod and Sonny pried him loose. He stood up and yelled, "Now are you going to get out of here, or do I have to use this?" He brandished a 2x4. "Whoa," I said. "What happened to brotherhood and all that shit about all of us being in this together? You're as much a corporate thug as any stock market flunky down on Wall Street. Come on, Mike. We'll go someplace else where the air is rarer." I took off for the big pond, running, plunged in, and was cooling off nicely when an authoritative voice boomed out. "Everybody out of the water. No swimming allowed. Non-compliance will result in a ticket and a fine, and you will be 86th from the property." Okay. We ambled back to our camp. I turned the amp up to 11, strapped on the blonde guitar, and ripped across the strings in a maddening blare of feedback and echo about to drive everyone crazy, when some real music came riding in over the top. I stopped playing and looked around. 4 guys I'd never seen before, adding a blues line to our prankster mayhem. We backed off and let them take over. The guitar player began singing. "I lay down last night. I tried to take my rest. Notion struck me last night. I believe I'll take a stroll out west. If I were a catfish, mama, swimming in the blue sea, I'd have these girls now, mama, setting out hooks for me, setting out hooks for me." After a few numbers, they quit and we got acquainted. The Quarry from Pittsfield, Massachusetts, been playing together since high school. They had been doing a gig at the Zodiac in Manhattan when Mike Lang, the Woodstock organizer, heard them and told their manager to bring the band to Woodstock. Long hairs down to the shoulders. Next day, I wandered back over to the main stage. Construction was still going full blast. A chain-link fence ran behind the stage, wide open into the festival. A trailer serving as the security office was parked next to the entrance. An older man, late 40s, early 50s, stood outside the trailer door. Short haircut, square face, penetrating eyes. He watched the young people parading past. I went over and we traded stories. He was Wes Pomeroy, head of security, and was curious what was I doing there, obviously older than most of the crowd. It came out we were both former Marines. He said he was waiting for the security force to arrive. 40 off-duty New York policemen. Then he surprised me by asking if I would brief them on what their function would be at the concert. There I was, bearded, bare-chested, red bandana around my neck, Levi's hanging low on my hips, sandals, facing New York's finest, who were looking at me stone-faced. "First off," I said, "this will be a simple, casual job for you men. You'll be dealing with people who are here for the music and to have a good time. I doubt there will be any hassles, but if you see an altercation, step in and calm them down and hang around to make sure it's over." I paused and one of the policemen said, "What about drugs?" "Well, there's going to be a lot of drugs. But for the most part, it will be simply using, so let it go. If you see anyone selling and money changing hands, tell them it's not kosher, and if they keep it up, you'll confiscate the drugs and the money. Let's face it, these are mostly potheads and acid heads, and they're not here to make trouble. Enjoy yourselves and help out anyone who seems to be in difficulty." The group broke up. A troop, dressed in khaki, marching in single file, approached the entrance. They were led by a stout lady with a whistle dangling on her chest, thick brogans, kicked up dust. I looked at Wes Pomeroy. "Go see what they want, Ken." I met them at the entrance. The head lady blew her whistle and the troop came to a halt. "What gives?" I said. She looked me up and down and frowned. "Who is this ill-mannered, shabbily dressed interloper to be questioning me?" "We are the ticket takers," she said. "All the people who have already entered will have to leave, come back in and show their tickets." I held up a finger. "Hold on for a moment, ma'am, while I consult with my superior." "At ease," the lady bellowed. Everybody in the line relaxed. Wes Pomeroy let out a long breath. "How are we going to manage this?" "Yeah, there's probably already 100,000 people inside," I said. "We'll never be able to get them to come out and go back in. Who knows how many even have tickets?" He rubbed his chin. "Gotta be some way to work this out," he said. "Any ideas?" "That's like they say in the Marine Corps. Do it with a kiss, K-I-S-S. Keep it simple, stupid." "Let's make it a free concert. Do away with tickets altogether." "Huh, that's so simple in my work." Stupid. "I'll check with Michael Lang over at the stage." He went into the security trailer, talked on the phone, nodded and hung up. "He agreed," Wes said. "Go break the news to the lady." "Well, guess what?" I said. "Turns out we won't be needing your team after all. The promoters have decided to make it a free concert." She glared and spun around. "About face," she yelled, and the line obeyed. "Forward march!" They strode away. Behind us, men and women were rolling the chain link fence away from the entrance, leaving a 50-foot opening. "Guess we're done here," I said. Wes nodded. We shook hands and I ambled through the woods and over the hills to our place, singing, "To grandmother's house we go, to grandmother's house we go," until I reached the free stage, went behind the buses, and took a nap in the shade. A crew of hog farmers had built a new stage off the ground in front of the semicircle of parked buses. Another crew brought in an electrical cord from the power grid running the main stage, giving us plenty of juice to run our stage and with outlets for the buses. When everything was up and running, I announced over the PA that the free stage was open and anyone could come up and play an instrument and sing or just say their name and where they came from. Line up on the left, walk to the middle, do your thing, and go off on the right. A line formed immediately. Almost everyone merely said their names, but some were musicians. I sat down in a chair and let my thoughts roam, not paying any attention to what was going on, until I heard a voice I recognized. Joan Baez was sitting on a chair in the middle of the stage, singing and playing a Phil Oakes song. The crowd in front was enraptured, not making a peep, until I joined in. Show me the alley, show me the train, show me a hobo who sleeps out in the rain, and I'll show you a young man with so many reasons why. There, but for fortune, go you or go I. By the middle of the song, a naked, red-bearded, red-haired, 6'8", tall Viking raced head over heels doing cartwheels across the front of the stage, his balls and pecker flying. Joan Baez shrieked and strummed the guitar wildly as the Viking landed on his feet, galloped through the crowd, and disappeared over the hill. Joan Baez singing behind me. Show me the penis and show me the nads. Show me the cartwheeler as he tumbles off the stage. And I'll show you a young man with so many reasons why. There but for good fortune, go you or go I. One of the highlights. David Butkovich came running in from the main stage. "The Grateful Dead are here," he said. "Ramrod is bringing us over a bunch of new gear." We shut down the free stage and worked new amplifiers, mixers, and speakers into our systems. In a few hours, everything was up and running. We knocked off for supper, and in the cool of the evening, the quarry began playing. The space in front quickly filled up, and by dark, the hill was crowded from top to bottom. We joined the quarry for a rollicking jam. Dale on his violin, his wife Tilly on her guitar and singing, me whanging on the blonde guitar, meaningless riffs winding through a cacophonic beat that trailed off into meandering chords, quieter and quieter until we were done. Towards evening, black clouds mushroomed on the horizon. I walked over to the main stage to catch the Grateful Dead. The clouds opened up. The rain poured down so hard you couldn't see from one side of the stage to the other. The wind left one shredded piece of canvas dangling over the guitar amps and the drums. The electricity shorted out. Sparks danced across the stage. The amps blew with a bang, and smoke shot out of their backs. Jerry and Phil and Bobby clutched their instruments against their chest. Bill leaned over his drums, protecting them as best he could. The sound techs and electricians frantically worked on the wires and connections. One spotlight was working, throwing a beam that swung back and forth across the stage. Out in the dark, the hill was a mass of shapes, huddled under blankets and sleeping bags, bare skin glistening in the rain. I stood in the back of the stage next to Pigpen. One microphone began to work, and Pigpen said to me, "Go tell him a story, Babbs." I gave him a look. Every time I was on the stage with the Grateful Dead, and they were spending an endless time getting ready, Pigpen would prod me into telling a story, knowing that once I got on the microphone, the band would silence me by rushing forward and start playing and singing. Not this time. It was going to take a while before the stage was ready. I stepped to the microphone. "We came all the way from Oregon, 40 people in 4 buses, departed from Ken Kesey's farm, leaving Ken Kesey behind. He didn't make it. So just the other day over at our camp, one of the women who rode here in Kesey's bus wired Kesey $180 to buy a plane ticket to Woodstock. But then we came to find out Kesey used the money to fly a kid named Jake, who had been dropped off at Kesey's farm, to fly the kid home to San Francisco. So you can tell your children that's the reason Ken Kesey never made it to Woodstock." Unknown story. Only us. Them. More microphones came to life. The guitar amps buzzed too loud, and the techies were still scurrying around, so the band couldn't start a song. Someone yelled something from the crowd. "You want it louder?" Jerry said into his microphone. The crowd yelled back, answers and suggestions. "What I mean to tell you," Bob Weir said, "everything up here is falling to waste." "Well, the problem is," I said, "if you can't hear us down there, we can't hear you up here. But we're working on it, trying to smooth it all out for the distance of, what do you call it?" "You call it what?" Bob Weir said. "More volume," I said. It was like Jellystone Park was this place made for the people, like it was in Indian days, when tribes came from everywhere to camp in a neutral ground where no fighting would take place. A holy place to take a bath and cleanse your body. And now all this apparatus we have going here puts us in a similar light. For just like in a hot spring, you can sit here and bathe as long as you want. "Bathe," Bob Weir said. "If it don't work, we can pull one up in Peoria." The crowd was getting rowdy, screaming and waving fists. "Oh, too bad," I said. "The guys down below don't seem to like it that my microphone's working." "More volume on number 5, the sound man said. "Not for cats and moans and wails, But you can turn it up anyway, Bob Weir said. Bring up 6, Jerry Garcia said. In Detroit last year at the concert, it was bring up 2, I said. So everybody was doing 2. And this guy came up on the stage and in a moment of great breakthrough said, do 3. Just like last night when the Bible thumpers came to the free stage. And one of them yelled, revolution! And another answered, for Christ! And I realized, my God, they were doing 3. And some other guy said, 3 is fine, but when you want to complete the thing, you want to do it like this. He stuck 3 fingers in his mouth and slapped his forehead. How come you turned my microphone down, Bob Weir said. Well, as the deathly silence settled over the pavilion, and we realized we overloaded everything, and the final fuse was blown, the helicopters were still flying out the wounded, and the green tab acid takers were saying to one another, I took the green stuff and I feel great. What's all the hassle? An old pal stepped to the microphone. Hello, people. My name's Country Joe. I want to tell you something. You know, a lot of us people from the Bay Area, we're real LSD freaks. We've taken a lot of LSD. We know what LSD is. But I'll tell you one thing. There's something being passed out here today that may or may not have be LSD. And there's a chance you won't have a good time, great good trip. If you've taken it already, don't worry. Because you're not poisoned and you won't die. Just listen to the music and wait until you get some stuff that you know is good. That's called common sense, right? Country Joe common sense, I said. Sit down, someone yelled, and others took up the cry. Sit down. They had enough of my bullshit. They wanted the Grateful Dead, and right on cue, the band hit Love Light. Just as some guy, shiny face, black hair to his shoulders, bushy eyebrows, mustache, eyes diluted, jumped up on the stage like a pop-up doll and began talking into the microphone. Whoa, yeah, I've seen the sunrise, the sun over the lakes, the great lakes, and over the Pacific Ocean, and over the Atlantic. And there's something I'd like to say. There's another coast. It's the third coast, the greatest freshwater reservoir in the world, and more miles of coastline. Bob Weir came over to me. Get him off of here. I had 2 joints in my shirt pocket. I lit one, and as I approached the guy, he reared back, surprised by the sudden flare. I handed him the joint. As he held it to his lips, I pulled him away from the microphone and passed him over to Ramrod, who eased him off the stage into the arms of the crowd below. As Pigpen's voice came out clear and strong. Come on, baby, baby, please. I'm on my knees, I'm asking you please, turn on your light, let it shine on me. Turn on your love light, let it shine on me. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. The band laid on the instrumentals and Love Light poured out of the speakers for 40 minutes, with back and forth singing between Bobby and Pigpen, intermixed with long guitar runs, accompanied by keyboard and bass, backed by Billy's pounding drums, an over-the-top closing song that left the crowd screaming for more. George Walker, who's here tonight, used to say that we turn them away by the dozens until we started performing in halls, and then we started turning them away by the hundreds. The cows lowed and mooed in Max Yazger's pasture. Now clear of piles of trash, garbage, discarded clothing, sleeping bags, and tents. The security trailer and chain link fence were gone. and there was a bare patch of ground where the stage and performers tent once stood. At the hog farm, kitchen and freak-out tent, everything was packed into buses and trucks, ready to leave. Ramrod joined the Grateful Dead to take up his job as head roadie. 2 of our buses had flat tires and further wouldn't start. We put spare tires on the buses, pulled further with Max Yasgur's tractor, the mud flying behind the back wheels like a geyser, through a ditch to the top of the hill, the rest of the buses following. Dusk settled in and we camped right there. Stan Goldstein showed up at our camp along with some of the festival workers. One of them was the bearded, shirtless guy I'd wrestled in front of the main stage. He gave me a wire grin and I nodded. No more of that mano-to-mano bullshit now, not after the uplifting spirit of the festival. Stan asked me if the pranksters would be willing to go to the Texas Pop Festival near Dallas and do a free stage. The hog farmers were going and would run the kitchen. Once again, we'd be paid $1,650. I shook with Stan on the deal and we walked over to the main stage to get the money. Stan asked Michael Lang for an advance for the work the hog farm already did at Woodstock, and then Stan could pay me for the Texas gig out of that. After smoking hash and palavering, Michael coughed up the money. The cash locked up in my briefcase, I gave the marching orders. Load 'em up, hit the road, time's a-wasting. On Friday, August 22nd, 1969, 29 people, 3 dogs, 1 rat, and 4 buses departed White Lake, New York, and headed west, scheduled to arrive at the Texas Pop Festival in a week. The hog farmers would already be there. 100 miles down the road, further ate a valve stem in the rear tire, chewed the tire to its bitter end, which necessitated replacing it with the bald spare. On the road again, Butko threw a cigarette butt out of the window and hit a state trooper's car on the windshield. The siren wailed, the lights flashed, the Smokey Bear hitched his gun belt, walked alongside the bus, looked it over, top to bottom, stem to stern, and informed Butko he needed to get some mud flaps. Yes, sir, Butko responded. The trooper gave him a 2-fingered salute and walked back to his cruiser. In Ohio, we crawled behind serious black-clad families riding in horse-drawn buggies, clear sailing through Kentucky, Tennessee, Mississippi, and Louisiana into Texas, to arrive at the little town of Louisville as the sun descended over the western plain. We drove into the park. The hog farmers were camped in a wooded area at the end of a large field. A canopied tent covered the free kitchen. Behind the trees, the water of a lake lapped against the shore. We parked our buses inside the tree line under the shade. That's it for today, I said. Tomorrow, we go to work. Thank you. That ended the last celebration of the 60s, the 50th year anniversary. So I'll take any questions now if anybody has any. Why don't you turn the lights up, Scott? There's a question back there.
Yeah, Ken, I'm sure you've told the story 100 times, but if you could just give us the brief version of how you came to drive the further bus into Mexico.
Into Mexico?
That's the word.
Well, you taking us way back now. We're back to 1966 when Kesey faked suicide because he was getting busted or having to go to jail for a drug bust. And he went to Mexico, and the rest of us were doing the acid test in LA. And on the night that acid became illegal in California, we all got on the bus and drove down to Mexico and met up with Kesey down there. Simple as that. You know, I'm writing this book called CRONIES, which is all about the adventures we had together, and that is another chapter. Yeah, that's a good one too. Mexico.
So the Cronies book hasn't been published yet?
No, the CRONIES book hasn't been published yet. It's my end of it is finished, and it's in New York now, making the rounds of the publishing houses to try and get a sale. But I'm beginning to think that New York is too square for this book. Because, I mean, I don't know if you're from there or not, but anyway, I'm not bad-mouthing, everything's fine, but there is a vast difference in attitude and temperament and a lot of other stuff between the East Coast and the West Coast, as witnessed by us groovy people. We'll get back there first.
Did you put your wonderful adventures, or how did you put your wonderful adventures on your resume?
On my resume? I have no resume. I am the resume. And soon I will resume my resume. No, but the wonderful adventures are in this book called CRONIES. It's a 500-page book, 70 chapters. And it's a series of stories about things that happened with all of us, me and all of us together, me and Kesey and Cassidy and the Pranksters. Starting when I met him in Stanford at the graduate writing program in 1958 and going to when he died in 2003. Let's see, who was right here?
I had a question. I read in Robbie Robertson's autobiography that the pranksters had invaded his house or Bob Dylan's house or something like that. Do you recall any event like that?
Well, it's like Timothy Leary said. If you can remember it, you weren't there. And here's the deal. We're talking about things that happened 50 years ago, and by now it's all a myth. It's all derived from mythology that goes all the way back to when the stories were first told. And this developed with everybody adding to the myth. And this is Robbie's addition to the myth. And about the area that I have been part of, all this stuff is being added to it, and it's growing like a mountain until it sits like this for hundreds and hundreds of years as all the detritus falls off it. And all that's left is this pure mountain, and that's the story. And it will be written by somebody like Homer 2,000 years from now. Yeah.
I believe Babbs had mentioned a story about Mary Pranksters and Richard Alpert. Was he around when you were there?
Oh yeah, we knew Ramdas quite well, his Leary sidekick. And when we were in New York City with the bus in '64, when we left there, we went to Woodstock, Millbrook, where they were holding their scene up there, and hung around for a few days before we headed home. It was a scene there that part of the myth that's come down about it is that there was some kind of a irritable, not getting along thing between us, the East Coast acid heads and us, and it was true. They did meditation and quiet scenes together and all that, where we got high and drove the bus around playing our instruments and grooving with the people. And don't forget this: we were making a movie of the whole thing, because then we were movie makers. Kesey and I were sick of writing all that typing. And then George there, he brought a 16mm camera, and we started acting out parts and everything. So when we went to New York and back, we were filming and taping the whole thing, and we're going to get a big-time movie out of it that was going to show in the big-time theaters like nothing had ever been seen before. Not a true documentary, because we were making up stuff all the time through it, but a thing that was fueled by LSD. CISA had all these beautiful ingredients. But we had a tough time with the editing, so it kind of... In fact, this little chapter from the Cronies that I had selling here called "We Were Arrested" is about that whole thing. And because people would ask him, "Kesey, whatever happened to that movie?" And he says, "Well, we were arrested." That was a great double entendre, because we not only were arrested for a plot, but we were stopped from working on the movie anymore for quite a while. But there's a happy ending to that story. Anybody else? Yes, ma'am.
Does the film footage still exist?
Yes, it does. The actual film, the originals are in a vault in L.A., and copies and everything, Zane Kesey's son has, and they all exist. You have 40 hours of film and tape. I know. This is all stuff that's going to be poured over, years from now by people, scholars and that. I'll tell you what did it. Was Tom Wolfe's book, The Electric Kool-Aid Acid Test. When that came out, suddenly we were the poster children of the whole psychedelic revolution. So you hear people, they're always accusing us of starting the whole thing, of turning on the whole country to LSD and all that. Little did they know we were a tiny part of a huge movement. Like Kesey said, when the wave came in, it hit everything. Everybody got washed by the wave and hit by it. And he said, this was in 1970 or something like this. And the wave's still going. It's all the way to Kansas City now. Yeah.
I can't tell if further is the vehicle or if you are the vehicle.
Well, that's good, because we are. We are both the vehicle.
Okay.
Yeah. In fact, that's a good question. That's a good way to put it. We are the vehicle, because I am the vehicle that carries what I talk about, and the bus is the vehicle that carried us all wherever we wanted to go. And the bus still goes. Zane, his son, has it all the time. In fact, on the 15th, they're having a big scene at the Kesey Square in Eugene, a celebration of Kesey's birthday, all day long. And the bus will be there.
On a serious note, one of the things that I've been thinking about in Woodstock is after the first day, when all the food ran out and everything, people really got into a total cooperative, sharing, no money situation. And you could tell that everybody was really, really up with it.
So what's the question?
My question is, how do you see right now yourself in speaking to the situation that we're facing, and is there a place for a vision of a cooperative society?
Absolutely, and it's going on all over the country, but it's under the radar. George can talk about it. He goes to these scenes all the time. There's now 5th generation pranksters.
Everywhere you go, every weekend, all over the country, every town, every county, you can't even cover all the stuff in your county on a weekend. All summer long, everywhere there's these festivals, music festivals, barter festivals, country fairs. And there are hundreds of people, some of them thousands of people going to these things. And there's a scene now like you can't believe. The commonest question I get asked as I go to these things and talk to people is how it's different from '64 when we did it. And it's really simple. In '64 there was nothing to do and there was nowhere to go. There was nothing happening, there was no scene.
It was live, it wasn't recorded.
Yeah, we had to make it. We had to do stuff to make something happen or just go see friends. Now you can't cover it all.
Well, that's true. Most of what was going on then that we knew about was happening around the Bay Area. But there was a live scene in LA too. But it's true when we went.
Not like now, not all over the country.
Oh no, I know. Like I said, I was going to say when we drove the bus across country, we didn't run into any of that.
Nothing.
But now you do. And so what I'm saying is yes. And these people are cooperating and they are living together and they are helping each other financially and with housing and taking care of each other and all that. There's a whole thing happening like that is not participating in the stuff we read in the papers and see on TV all the time where it's being pushed that this is the real America. That is not the real America. That is the America that's been kind of phony place they're given to us or pushed us into. And so now you see all these people are suffering. I mean, they can't keep their mortgages, and they're losing their jobs, and and they don't know what to do. So it's our job to take them in some way and hip them to what to do and how to handle this. So I'm telling you, Eugene is a mecca for this kind of thing. People here know it.
Tomorrow, on Sunday, like today, I was at Saturday market. There's a Sunday market in Lowell that starts at noon tomorrow. It's been going on for a while. It's going on now.
Go ahead.
So the two of us are, we live in a student cooperative, and we're actually here on a recruiting effort. So if anybody's interested.
What, the Campbell Club?
The Campbell Club, that's right.
Our daughter lived in the Campbell Club when she went to U of O. That's a great scene. That's a good example. Yeah. The U of O.
We need more young people doing that these days.
They're coming. They're going to take over, and they're going to do a good job. I got a lot of confidence in this country. I'm actually kind of enjoying the thing we're going through now because, for one thing, none of it ever touches me. I mean, out there where we live good. I mean, you know, there's no hassle, there's no bad people, and you know, no fights, or everything's okay. So that's really my reality, and that's the reality I'd like to, you know, have everybody be part of. Yeah.
Okay, I remember one time you said something to the effect of you stopped using the LSD and you became the LSD. You also talked about a style of writing, which beforehand I was unfamiliar with, called burlesque, I think you said?
The what?
Was it burlesque? It's a style of writing that you used for the book Cronies? Burlesque.
Oh, burlesque.
Oh, burlesque.
A burlesque. Yeah, the book is a burlesque.
Right, and I wondered how the two combined.
Well, the two combined because, yes, now I am LSD, and the book is a psychedelic book. Psychedelic genre in literature is beginning to emerge. There's lots of books now, not a lot, but some coming up now that you can tell they're psychedelic when you read them. But anyway, the burlesque, when I was starting this book, I didn't want it to be a memoir, and I didn't want it to be fiction, and I didn't want it to be a biography of Kesey. And I stumbled upon this thing that's just called a burlesque. And it's a real literary thing, and a famous example is from the 1700s when the book Knickerbocker's History of New York City came out by this guy, D.Lewis Knickerbocker. Oh God, everybody's wondering, what the hell, who wrote this piece of trash? It had things on there like, why is the mayor of New York City meeting every boat that comes in and full of immigrants and taking the prettiest women and giving them jobs in City Hall? Well, I don't know, why was he? So it became a sensation, and then finally the true author was revealed, none other than Washington Irving. The first author in America to make a living by writing. Yeah. Thank you.
You want some more water?
Yeah.
Want some more
Actually,
water?
no, give me some more water. Okay, anybody else got anything? Well, good. my throat's giving out. Well, I really want to thank you all for coming here. Another beautiful evening, and we're getting done in time where we can still go out and enjoy the sunset and go places in the cool. Thanks again.
Where are you going to do the book signing?
Oh, I'll sign the books right here on this table. So come on up if you want anything signed.